On this episode of The Road Chose Me, I'm exploring Zambia and finding more waterfalls everywhere I go. So I really love Zambia. This is typical of what I've found so far. Here, sign just here on the side of the river, it says swimming at own risk. And I'll walk you around and show you. If you looked upstream, you'd think to yourself, oh yeah, you know, there's a little bit of water moving here, you know, come down that in a raft and wonder what's around the corner. Want to go for a swim? Well, you might not want to go for a swim. Check this out. Right there, next to the sign that says swimming at own risk, here's what's downstream. You got to be absolutely nuts. Look at this thing. I can see straight down to the bottom. I'm going to guess 100 feet, 120 feet. The water is pouring off the edge. And of course, there's no safety fence, there's nobody around. I'm camping about 100 yards away. These are the waterfalls of northern Zambia. Alright, so I have to back up a little bit and try and do things in their correct order. From the minute I drive into Zambia, I know it's a country I'm gonna love. People are really friendly and there's a lot of wild open spaces where I can wild camp and explore down dirt roads. After having a good look at maps, I decide the southern section doesn't interest me too much, and so I make a beeline through the capital of Lusaka all the way up into the northern region. I explore down dirt roads for a couple of days, and then decide to keep pushing further rather than going back as I originally planned. Of course, I haven't planned ahead, and my Titan gas tank is not full. I only have the stock Jeep tank. I think you can guess where this is going. So I push on and eventually burst out on the highway. The first town I come to doesn't have a gas station, and neither does the second. I push on and eventually I manhandle the Jeep to the side of the road, less than 4 miles from a gas station that I'd been to earlier in the week. That's right, for the first time ever, I just ran the Jeep out of gas. The first car to come along is happy to give me a ride into town. I find a local who lends me a container and I put a couple of gallons in before jumping in a taxi and heading back to the Jeep. It's no problem filling it up and it fires right up. All in all, my boneheaded move cost me about an hour and I made some friends along the way. I find some stunning hiking inside the Mutanondo Wilderness area and then I check out some cave paintings at Nasalu Caves. Wow, Zambia has tons of stuff to check out. I soon realised the highlight of northern Zambia is all the amazing wilderness waterfalls. Over the course of a couple of days, I visit a bunch, always camping and just exploring to my heart's content. This is the bottom of the one from the start of the video. Check this out. Trudging through the jungle here, vines on the trees, moss on all the steps. And then we've got this rickety platform down here going out over the water. Look how close we get to this enormous waterfall. This is out of control. I think this is the closest I've ever been to such a big waterfall. This thing is massive. That tree up there on the left, that's where I was standing a few minutes ago. And there's just this wall of water in front of me. And I'm right down here at water level. This thing defies belief. It is awesome. And I'm getting tons and tons of spray right now. But it's nice because it's hot. From the north, I decide to split the gap between the two major national parks in the country, the South and North Luangwa National Parks. There is a road that cuts between them, but I can't find much information. After 100 miles or so of reasonable gravel, I come into this town where they have a checkpoint set up. The guys here are happy to let me continue, but they've heard there's a river crossing ahead that's absolutely impossible at this time of year. As far as they know, I'm not going to make it, but I decide to just go on and see what happens. They also warn me the next few miles are going to get seriously interesting as the road drops down from the mountains and loses a couple of 1,000 feet of elevation down to the valley floor below. I'm going downhill, so it's nothing the Jeep can't handle, but I do find myself in low-range first gear on more than a couple of occasions. There's also some really rocky sections and places where they've poured concrete to try and deal with erosion, and I do have to wonder about coming up this stuff in heavy rain or with these rivers flowing over the track. I really don't know. It would be seriously interesting. Virtually all the river crossings are sandy and bone dry, but there are a couple that look like this. Bump into some ranger patrols on foot who are burning brush to try and make it easier to spot poachers. So people have told us a lot about tsetse flies and how you can get sleeping sickness from them and how they can lay eggs under your skin. And so here we are in Zambia. Check this out. Every single one of these is a tsetse fly. They're like voracious. There's hundreds of them sitting on the Jeep. And if I'm quiet for a second, listen to the noise as they bump into the windows. Sounds like rain landing on the roof. Actually, it's the tsetse flies hitting the windows. I've never seen anything like this. No doubt the highlight of the track comes when I have to cross the mighty Luangwa River. Have a look at that ferry. It's just a few barrels lashed together, and then the guys are going to pull it across by hand. They assure me it's sturdy enough to handle the weight of the Jeep, but I definitely have my reservations as I drive on. It does tilt quite a bit, but actually it seems to be fine. You can be sure I leave the Jeep in gear and pull the handbrake really hard. It turns out the water is flowing quite fast, and the guys work really hard to pull it across against the opposing current. There's also tons of hippos grunting, and they tell me there's crocs in the river as well. On the far bank, the loading ramp is just this hilarious collection of logs. I have to say, I'm pretty happy to have the Jeep back on dry ground after this one. Here we are on the massive Luangwa River. You can see some hippos in the distance. There's crocs in here as well. We just came across on this ferry that these guys are pulling across by hand. So I just had the Jeep on there. It was actually pretty sturdy, although it was sitting low in the water. Now I'm on the right side of the river, I can move into South Luangwa National Park, which from all accounts should be a highlight of Zambia. One of the things I'm always surprised with is how much the animals are happy to hang out with each other. I always thought they'd be alone somehow, but it turns out they all just hang out 5 or 10 yards from each other. They don't seem to mind at all. It's almost like they're all friends. When we drove up to this little herd of elephants, the little guy was taking a nap. All of the big ones started nudging him. Obviously they wanted him on his feet in case there was any danger. He was pretty reluctant to stand up, and then when he did, he was almost tripping over his own feet. I think he was still half asleep. They all mill about on the bank of the river for a while, and then finally decide it's time to cross. It's interesting to watch. The bigger ones shepherd the little one. They're trying to keep him safe from the crocodiles they know are in the river. So these elephants cross every single day to the other side, and they walk right through where I'm camping all the way into the local town. They eat all the trees along the way and basically do whatever they want, knocking over fences and causing trouble. But because the locals live so close to the national park, they're just used to it and it's part of life. The elephants get the right of way. Not far away, we're lucky enough to see these lions mating. They seem to do this for hours and hours every single day, and in between, they just fall in a heap and fall asleep. We also catch these 2 elephants posturing. They're only young, so they're probably just practicing for the real fight to come after they've grown up. And then finally, the highlight is spotting this leopard on a night drive. Originally, I thought Zambia would just be a quick stop, but after 2,700 miles in 4 weeks, I've fallen in love with this place. If you ever get the chance, get yourself to Zambia.